You're listening to Little Green Cheese, episode 78. Well, welcome back. I'm Gavin Weber, and this podcast is where you can learn about cheese making at home. This week's been quite interesting. We have had very good response, or it was the royal we. I've had good response for the brick cheese video tutorial. And I think it's already surpassed 9,000 views on YouTube, which is quite good for the first week, that's for sure. I really enjoyed making that cheese and trying to come up with a method of how to press it into the brick shape. Now, I have been washing it diligently every second day, but turning it every single day for the last week. And it's starting to get a little bit tacky in between washes, which I know from experience is a sign that the red/orange mold is going to start to grow very soon. So I don't have many cheeses this weekend because we're quite busy. I'm going to spend the weekend writing my second book, Keep Calm and Make More Cheese. Now I'm about, I would say, a third of the way through that at the moment. I've got a lot more narrative to put in there, but I'm just collating the recipes at the moment and trying to get all of those squared away before I, finish tidying up some of the wording and some of the introductions and some of the more advanced tips that I've certainly learnt over the last few years. Anyway, that's enough about me. Let's get on with the news. Well, the news this week is from, I think it's a newspaper called the Locavore, I think. No, it's called Flagpole, the colour bearer of Athens, Georgia. So it's an online newspaper, probably in print as well. And they've got a very interesting story about, it's titled Say Cheese, Artisan Cheese Making Grows in Georgia. And it's by Lauren Baggett. And I'll just read a part of it here, which is quite interesting. It says, when Tyler Davis's family bought fancy cheese growing up, it was Cracker Barrel brand cheddar from a chain grocery store destined for mac and cheese. Davis, who is now the head cheesemaker and owner of Hobo Cheese Company in Covington, has developed a more refined palate for cheeses since then, and he is one of a handful of Georgian-based cheesemakers who are looking to infuse a little cheese culture into our local food economy. Quote, there hasn't historically been much of a cheese-making tradition down here. There's less demand overall in the South, Davis says. Local cheese shops are commonplace in states like New York, Wisconsin, and Vermont, where dairy farms dot the landscape and cheese plays a more central role in food culture. That may explain why, among the array of foods grown, raised, and sold in Athens area, local cheese is hard to come by. Nature's Harmony Farm in Elberton has been quietly producing small batches of farmstead cheese since 2007, drawing the attention of artisan cheese lovers when its cheddar and alpine cheeses took home a slew of regional and international awards in 2014, including the Flavour of Georgia contest. Yet the celebration of locally made cheeses has been slow to spill into larger markets. That may be changing as more artisan cheesemakers are popping up in farmers markets and smaller grocery stores in northeast Georgia. Now, it goes on to mention a whole bunch of other Georgian cheesemakers, some like the Rockhouse Creamery. What else we got here? More mentions of the Hobo dairy as well. But it's good to see that there are lots of different local cheesemakers. I know in our area, and I'm talking a large area, probably 160 kilometre radius, which is 100 miles, we've probably got, that I know of, two or three artisan cheesemakers that sell their cheeses to the public. Um, but you go out a little bit further into the dairy heartlands of Victoria, which is Gippsland to the east of us, and the Otway Ranges, or the Otway Ranges to the east, and there are a lot of dairy parches, a lot of dairy farms supplying a lot of milk and making a lot of cheese. Um, in a larger scale. So it's interesting to find these small little cheesemakers dotted throughout countrysides, and you really do have to hunt for them. Sometimes a Google search just doesn't cut it. You have to go to some of the local information centres in these towns to find out where these little dairies or creameries are. But I do urge you, in your quest for the perfect cheese, to seek out some of these little small artisan cheesemakers, because they'll be able to give you tips. I'm sure they'll love to share their passion of cheese. You're never going to be able to replicate their cheese that you make, but it is, it's always good to have a chat to a fellow cheesemaker because they just get it. You know what I mean? So I reckon that if you do find one of your local cheesemakers, then it probably pays to support them as well. You're never going to be able to make enough cheese for yourself. I know that's a fact for our family because sometimes Kim does buy the odd block of Cracker Barrel cheese. Ah, goodness me. Okay, we've got a few voicemails this week, which are absolutely fantastic. So let's get on with those. The first voicemail is from Barnabas. Barnabas, here we go.
Hello. Hi, Gavin. I just saw your video about how to measure your cheese and your cheese fridge, and I liked it a lot. I could definitely get such a fridge and get that thermostat to switch off and on the fridge. But I saw that your cheeses were vacuum packed or packaged, and so I was wondering whether it is working without the packaging or not, or if it is required with this setup to vacuum package, how do you vacuum package, what accessories do you need, um, and that's pretty much it. If you could help me with that, that would be great. Thank you a lot. Bye.
No, thank you, Barnabas. No problems at all. Good question. Vac packing, how do you do it? Well, I actually produced a video on how to do it, but the short and tall of it of vacuum packing is basically uh, there are lots of brands out there, but the one that I use and stick to because it's quite reliable is known as a it's a Sunbeam Food Saver, and that's the product that I use. And the good thing is that the plastic rolls that you use actually fit inside the machine, so you don't have to store them anywhere separate. So you put a full plastic roll in there. There's even a little cutting tool. So basically, you pull a bit of the plastic out, about the size you reckon for the size wheel of cheese that you need. You cut the end off it. You use the slicer thing, and you seal one end. Then you put your cheese inside, and then you put your cheese inside, and then you vacuum, suck all the air out of it, and it automatically seals all by itself. Now, the good thing is when cheese matures, just say normal hard to semi-hard cheeses, they don't need oxygen to mature. That's a that's a bit of a myth and a furphy, because what happens is as the rennet's done its job, as the mesophilic or the thermophilic starter cultures have done their job, they actually die off, and parts of them become what are known as enzymes. Now, enzymes break down other materials, and in this case, they break down proteins and they break down fats, which create the lovely flavors that we get for cheese, that are well known within the different types of cheeses. So you don't need oxygen to do that. So that's why vac packing works so well. Now, exactly the same thing sort of happens with when you wax a cheese. When you wax it, you're excluding the oxygen. You're trying to stop molds and yeasts from attacking your cheese by putting up a layer around it, a protective layer that excludes the oxygen. So when you do natural rind cheeses, you're kind of trying to do the opposite sort of thing. So you're trying to get the native flora from your area, as in the bacterium that are local to your area, to grow on the outside of the cheese. And in some cases, you need to wash the rind continuously, say once every week at least, to keep those at bay. But they help develop some of the flavour within the cheese. So there are three methods, and hopefully I've described vacuum packing. What I'll do, I'll put a link to the video for vacuum packing in the show notes, so you can just click on that and be whisked off to YouTube to my channel, cheeseman.tv, and you'll see how vacuum packing works. Okay, the next question is from Jim. I think it's a thank you more than anything else.
Hi, Gavin. Jim Appleby from Manitoba in Canada here. I run a little creamery on the farm. I have been just bottling our milk and doing the non homogenized thing and um, kind of catering to cheesemakers as best I can. I make cheese mostly just for fun right now and for our family. And I wanted to let you know what an incredible amount I've learned from your podcast. I mention it to people on occasion, and I tell them it's like going on a fancy, expensive course without the expense and travel. So much appreciated. I also wanted to say how much I'm looking forward to your second ebook because I have taken one or two or maybe three of your videos and written out the recipes myself. But one of my goals with Little Creamery is to make and sell lots of different types of cheese, and your education has been a huge beginning to that for me. So thank you.
You're most welcome, Jim. I really appreciate the great feedback there, and that the podcast is doing something for somebody. It's great to get that sort of feedback, and it's very hard to receive feedback from for podcast episodes, unlike YouTube, which has a built-in comment section that people freely seem to want to express their opinion on every single video that I create, good or bad, and I seem to leave most of them in there unless they're swearing or something like that, because I do run a family-friendly channel. But thank you, Jim. No problems. And the book will be out soon. I know I promised it for the end of March, and it's now, what is it? It's July. But yeah, due to ill health, that kind of got put on the back burner. So I'm going to have a good crack at it this weekend, and see if I can tidy up some of the loose ends there. But anyway, thank you so much for your voicemail. It was lovely to hear from you, Jim. All right, the next one is from Spencer, and I think this is a thank you as well.
Hey Gavin, I just wanted to say I've watched all your videos. I think you're awesome. I've been making cheese now for a little bit over here in the United States, and I will continue to watch because I don't think I've seen anybody else make better videos or produce a better curd. I think a lot of people are really lacking the use of the calcium chloride. Okay, well, good to you down under. All right, bye-bye.
Thanks, Spencer. I appreciate it, mate. And g'day to you over there in the US. Um, Yeah, so as far as videos, there is another cheese channel, and I can't remember if I've mentioned this on the podcast. If you go to YouTube and you want a little bit more cheesy content, there's a guy over there called Jobe, and Jobe has a channel called Jobe's Cheese Lab, and he is doing lots of sort of funky cheese experiments. So things like how you wrap your bloomy rind cheeses, so like a camembert variant, and he wrapped it in different things, like some wax paper, some in cling wrap, and I can't remember the other one. But and he wanted to see how the mold grew and developed and what they tasted like. Another experiment he did was he made I think it's like a cheddar style cheese or something like that, and he used mesophilic in one and he used thermophilic culture in the other one, and it was very interesting to see the results. So that was very interesting. So Job's doing all those sort of experiments that, I don't dare to because I suppose the content I'm trying to make is more instructional for uh, newbie cheesemakers or curd nerds who have never made a cheese before and they want the step-by-step instructions. So that's kind of what I'm doing as far as my channel. But it's interesting to see a twist on that on Jobe's channel, Jobe's Cheese Lab. So very interesting. If you're interested, pop over there. I'll pop a link in the show notes for that as well. Okay, and the last question for today is from Ted, and Ted's got a good question.
Hi, Gavin. This is Ted in Moscow. I would like to know, I would like to make feta from goat and cow's milk mix, and I would like to know what proportion you'd recommend. Also, the milk I buy is unpasteurized and it is from healthy animals, so I probably will not pasteurize, as I've used this milk for years now making homemade kefir, and it's no problem at all. Very, very cool feature on this site. Thank you very much.
No, thank you, Ted, all the way from Moscow. Fantastic. The ratio that I would do 70% cow's milk and 30% goat's milk. And if you wanted a little bit sharper, then go 50-50%. So that's a good ratio. You'll get a lot of the natural lipase that is present in goat's milk and not present in cow's milk, or not as much anyway. It usually gets killed off in the pasteurization process. But seeing you using unhomogenized, unpasteurized milk, then you'll get the full flavor that those milks offer. But if you are dubious of the quality of the milk at any stage, don't be afraid to do what's that, thermization, or it's called batch processing, or batch pasteurization, where you take it up to 63 degrees Celsius as quick as you can. Slowly over time, it's not quick. 63 degrees Celsius, hold it there for 30 minutes, at least 30 minutes, and then cool it down quickly. That's the quick part. You want to get it past the danger zone as quickly as possible. Or just let it cool down to the temperature you need to start making your cheese at. So that's a good way to do it as well. Take it down to 4 degrees for storage, of course, if you're going to store it for a few days. Anyway, so thank you, Ted, all the way from Moscow. Hopefully that's helped. You can experiment with the different ratios, and that'll give you different flavors due to the lactobacteria present in the milk. So that's all we got time for this week. Unfortunately, there weren't a lot more questions, but keep those questions coming in. To leave a question for the show, just pop over to littlegreencheese.com, and on any of the podcast episodes, you'll see a little widget that says "Leave a message for Gavin," or on the right-hand sidebar, there is a little thing, "Leave a message for Gavin." So that's how you leave a message for me and leave a cheese question. I would love to answer your cheese questions on the show. But yeah, if you just want to say thank you, I'm quite happy to read those or play those as well. Thank you so much for all the questions that came in this week. I do appreciate it. Okay. Things on the horizon. Like I said, over the weekend, I'll be continuing writing the book, but I've got a few cheeses. I want to make a Oaxaca. I think that's how you pronounce it. It's a Mexican string cheese, which is pasta filata curds. So it's a stretchy. It's a bit like mozzarella that you stretch it a lot and you make it into a ball. So it looks like a ball made from rubber bands or elastic bands. But it's made from cheese instead. So that's pretty cool. So I'm planning to make that in the next few weeks. There's a few taste tests coming down the line. This week we'll be having Cheshire. So anybody who wanted to follow what Cheshire cheese tasted like, then I'll be putting up a YouTube taste test this weekend. So that'll be Cheshire. Anyway, thanks for listening. I do appreciate you lending me your ears. Oh God, it's like a tongue twister, isn't it? Lending me your ears over the course of the last 20 minutes, and really do appreciate the time you've taken to listen. Now, if you want to leave an iTunes review, if you're listening on iTunes, then that would be fantastic. Just pop over there and give it a whatever star rating you want. And any of those reviews, they get read out on the show. Now, I haven't had many lately because I haven't been asking for them, I suppose. So, yeah, just pop over to iTunes and give it a review. Or if you are watching this on YouTube, because I'm doing a video version as well, then leave a comment below and tell me what the best bit of the show was. And if you want to see anything different or hear anything different to the content of the program. Any feedback is welcome, of course. You've been listening to Little Green Cheese Podcast. You can pick up my ebook, Keep Calm and Make Cheese, The Beginner's Guide to Cheese Making at Home, at all good ebook retailers at Amazon and iBookstore, plus many, many others. You can also find it over at littlegreenworkshops.com.au, and there you can always find lots of cheese-making kits, supplies, and ingredients. We ship all over the world to most countries, except those that don't let us, of course. Thanks for listening, Curd Nerds, and stay tuned for the next exciting episode of Little Green Cheese Podcast. During the show, you heard music by Kevin MacLeod. I played Malt Shop Bop, Call to the Dairy Cows, and News Theme. Well, those watching on YouTube, thank you very much for watching. I appreciate it as always. And if you've got any comments, leave them in the comments below in the description. If you want to pick up anything from the shop, then please do so. Check out the little icon wherever it is. And go over to littlegreenworkshops.com.au. If you want to read the show notes of this episode, pop over to littlegreencheese.com. Thanks for watching, Curd Nerds, and I'll see you next time.